All right. Good afternoon. It's July 15th. This is the Bismarck-Mandan Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board. We're in the Ed Bosch Freilich Meeting Room in Mandan City Hall. It's 1:30. Before we call the meeting to order, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If we can call roll, please.
Mayor Freilich,
Here.
Mayor Schwab, Chair Schmitz,
Here. It should be Commissioner Schwab.
Commissioner Schwab, I'm sorry.
All right. Thank you. Our first item on the agenda is election of officers. As the two-year cycle is now expired, we need a chair and a vice chair. Is that correct?
Chair Schmitz, if I may, just respectfully, Commissioner Zachmeyer has respectfully declined any nominations for either chair or vice chair. Also, Mayor Berglund is obviously absent from the policy board meeting today, and so I'm going to leave it at the discretion of the policy board members who are in attendance as to whether we should move forward with election of officers or postpone it to August.
I mean, I guess it doesn't matter to me, but we can certainly, we have a quorum.
We do.
And so we already know that one person does not wish to accept any role.
Correct.
So 3 of the 4 others are here. And
Okay, let's make this easy. I nominate Mayor Schmitz for chairman.
Okay. We have a nomination of Mayor Schmitz for chair. So by standard protocol, I guess you could say that you make a motion for a unanimous nomination that Mayor Schmitz be chair of the policy board, and then we can close nominations, and then it's just a roll call vote, or not a roll call, it's just a
Yep.
A or aye or not nay, right?
Yep.
Okay, so
we should have a second to the motion, though, to be completely under Robert's rules.
okay. Oh, I'm sorry, I guess that I'm acting as secretary, so I would call for a second to that motion. Is there a second?
To nominate me to continue to serve as chair of the policy board. I guess we have a first and a second on that, so we could close nominations related to chair. We still need a vice chair.
Okay, call for nominations for policy board vice chair for the next 2 years.
I'll move that Mayor Freilich be vice chair.
Okay, do we have a second on that motion?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Do we need a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. It looks like,
We're okay, so now we can move forward.
okay.
Next item is minutes from last meeting on June 17th. Are there any changes or additions? If not, I would entertain a motion to accept those and approve them.
I'll make that motion to approve. Second.
Call roll, please.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Next item, Item 5, the 2026-2027 draft UPWP. Kim,
Thank you, Chair Schmitz. Is this on? Can everybody hear me?
I think you're going to have to speak into it. I can hear
Okay.
you, but not everybody can, so.
I don't know how much closer I can get. Is this a little better? Okay, great. So thank you, Chair Schmitz. Today we'll be talking about the draft copy of the 2026-2027 Unified Planning Work Program for the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. This is a draft of this particular work document. We will be looking for an approval on this draft so that we can submit it to our oversight agencies for a 30-day review, after which time we will bring it back to this board for potential final approval. So just to begin with, we've been functioning under an annual budget for the Bismarck-Mandan MPO. We are going to go back to what we've historically performed under, and that is a biennial budget. So this draft document is for the years 2026, 2027. And I'll try to present an overview just by kind of calling out some of the items that are new within the document. So skipping ahead to page 14 in your packet. It's the table of contents for the document, and we've been advised by North Dakota DOT and Federal Highway to add a statement that certifies that everything that is contained in this document is true, accurate, and complete, and that we are aware and do acknowledge that there are penalties for providing fraudulent or misinformation willingly or knowingly. So moving on to the body of the document, on page 15, the only addition there, it just provides an introduction of what the UPWP is. Again, it's a 2-year work program and budget for the MPO so that we can lay out some reasonable expectations as to what we are going to accomplish in the next 2 years and how we're going to do that fiscally. This page does include board membership, and we have added the names to our TAC board member designations and also to those of the policy board on this page. Moving on to page 16, we have updated our meeting dates for both the TAC and policy board, and of course, in keeping with a biennial program, the dates are for both 2026 and 2027. All are subject to change, but these are pretty standard. Moving on, we list our previous accomplishments for the last 12 months leading up to this UPWP and those accomplishments that we anticipate to achieve through the end of 2025. From there, we move into our planned work activities for years 2026 and 2027. Now, these are just narratives or a listing of the studies and data purchases that we intend to pursue. We will be getting into the budgeting portion of those a little bit later. On page on page 18 of the document, we have an overview of the UPWP. It does talk about the fact that we address MPO activities within this document in pretty broad terms, and that is to allow us to use a format that better aligns this document with the City of Bismarck budgeting. And the reason for that is because they are our hosting agency, and they provide 20% of the match on all of our administrative and operational activities. So we again, address our activities in broad terms under staff expenses, which includes all staff time, wages, and benefits, and then outsourced expenses and office-related expenses. So our outsourced expenses would include study consultant and data procurement and services in those areas. And then the office-related expenses would include supplies, our building rental, and staff development items. Below that, we do have a couple of tables that help us to indicate the source of funding used for our UPWP. This is a new addition to the document. We've not included that before. This is intended to provide a snapshot overview at a glance as to what our expected federal funds are for each of the years 2026 and 2027, how much of that is contributed by the North Dakota Planning and Complete Streets and FTA funding, and then how much is contributed by local match. Now, there's always a 20% local match, but the amounts that are contributed by each of our jurisdictions varies depending on their involvement in our studies and to what degree. I just want to note that the 2027 figures are based on estimates of a 2% increase in federal funding over what was estimated as a 2026 base CPG. And so these numbers are they are subject to change. And another item to note is that although this is a 2-year budget and work program, it is adopted on a rolling basis. So we'll be revisiting this again next year on an annual basis. The second year in the budget and work program, in this case 2027, serves almost as an illustrative year. It gives us a very good idea of what we will be pursuing and with what funding. But again, all of that is subject to change. So about this time next year, we'll be looking at a 2027-2028 biennial UPWP. Going on after the funding sources, we look at our federal planning factors. These are our federal planning factors that the MPO strives to adhere to and to incorporate in its activities and studies. And on the next page, page 20, we do have a chart that indicates our planned studies and how they help to meet performance goals and objectives that have been identified in our current Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Below that table is a timeline for the development of the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan, and that stretches out for about a 3.5-year time frame, where at that time we'll be adopting our new MTP. At the top of page 21, we note there are eligible expenses that is detailed here. This is also a new addition to our UPWP and was included to base compliance with 23 CFR 420-113, and that is quoted in part as part of this section. It talks about how the MPO is going to ascertain and verify that all of the expenses are eligible under 23 CFR 420 and these 5 objectives and how they meet compliance with that before they are submitted for payment. Below that is the UPWP amendment guidance. This tells us how we can amend our UPWP if necessary, or at what threshold we can stay below and just make changes with an administrative modification. The next page is a copy of our self-certification statement. You'll notice that this is last year's self-certification. We will be updating our self-certification for this year, and once that is updated, signed, and approved, we'll be inserting that into this document for final approval of the UPWP. The next section, beginning on page 23, entails how the Bismarck-Mandan MPO activities support the Title VI program. Very recently, North Dakota DOT and Federal Highway have advised the MPO on specific language that should be removed from documentation to maintain compliance with recently issued federal executive orders earlier in the year. So this particular section has been revised to eliminate some of the diversity, equity, and inclusion language that included environmental justice references, but otherwise it does remain the same. Moving on to page 25. We start looking at the 4 task areas that the UPWP embraces. Task 101 is administration, and of course, it details the staff of the MPO and the proposed work of the MPO staff in order to coordinate and facilitate all of the activities and programs of the MPO. That continues on page 26 and 27 as it details each of the work product documents that the MPO does produce, and also some of the other additional staff activities that may or may not occur within each of the 2 years indicated in the UPWP. It culminates on page 29 with a schedule and completion date process for our required work products. And those work products are the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP, the Unified Planning Work Program, or UPWP, and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or MTP. Now on page 30, we move into our next task, and that's task 102. That's the one that everyone kind of seems most interested in, because that does include professional services, vendors, and consultants, which equates to our studies and data acquisitions. We have reformatted this somewhat to provide an at-a-glance snapshot of what we are going to be pursuing in 2026 and then again in 2027 through the UPWP. These tables are formatted so that you can see the name of the project or study, a brief description of what that will include, the total project cost of the study or data acquisition, what amount of that is actually allocated to the year that you're referring to, in this case, 2026, and then a targeted start date or contract date for that project and anticipated date of completion. So I'm not going to go through the whole table, but just listing some of our work products that we intend to pursue in 2026. We will be in year 2 of the ATAC Annual Master Agreement. We expend $10,000 a year on that. We also do contract through addendums to the Master Agreement for ATAC to perform study-associated modeling for us. And so we do dedicate some funding to that each year. Up on the top of page 31, you'll see that we intend to pursue the 2025 Fringe Area Road Master Plan update, a Transit Development Plan update, a Mandan signalized intersection analysis through ATAC, a passenger rail station siting study, and a parking constrained areas study. So those are the intended projects that we will be undertaking in year 2026. These were all vetted through jurisdictional representatives in April. We brought this study list in a budget form to the TAC and Policy Board last month, and so we'll be kind of taking a look at that budget sheet as well. Moving forward then on page 32, it is the same formatted table but for year 2027. And you'll see that again, we have that third year of the ATAC Annual Master Agreement fee. We also have study associated modeling performed through ATAC with a designation of $20,000 there. We're going to be continuing and concluding the Transit Development Plan in 2027, as well as concluding the Mandan Signalized Intersection Analysis. The passenger rail station siting study will also conclude mid-year in 2027, and we will be pursuing the purchase of socioeconomic data, which will be, it'll consist of household and employment data so that MPO can refine it and provide it to ATAC for the update of our travel demand model. The travel demand model update will begin in year 2027. ATAC will be performing that, and that will be contracted for as an addendum under the ATAC Master Agreement. This is the crucial first step for the MPO's update to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Also in 2027, we anticipate kicking off the Morton County Future Land Use Plan and Map as shown on the top of page 33. And then, of course, towards the end of 2027, we anticipate kicking off our travel demand socioeconomic update and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan combined study. After the table, we do provide kind of that narrative with the final listing of final projects, the schedule and completion date, referring you back to the table. And so at this time, I would ask if there are any questions regarding the UPWP in general or the studies and projects as shown to this point.
Are there any questions? Hearing none,
Okay.
we need action on this? Or
Well,
not
actually,
quite
there's
yet?
just a few more items. We have task 103, and I'll continue with that. That's just capital, operational, and travel expenses, and that is detailed somewhat within that narrative on pages 34 and 35. And then on pages 36 and 37, we have our final task, which is 104. That is simply a tracking mechanism for our complete streets activities. And then on page 38, you will find the actual budget tables for years 2026 and 2027. These very likely look familiar to you. You did see these last month when they were presented to your board. All of the final totals for total budget and federal share, local share are all the same. Some of the numbers within the budget have been finessed, but all of the local match that's provided here, the totals are exactly the same as what you saw last month. And that is for both 26 and 27. The final page of the UPWP includes a map of the MPO boundary and planning area, along with the jurisdictional boundaries for Bismarck, Lincoln, and Mandan. Again, if there are questions, I would be happy to stand for those. If there are no questions, TAC did recommend approval of the draft 2026-27 UPWP, and staff would be seeking the same from Policy Board today.
Policy members, any questions? What would be your wishes?
I make a motion to accept the draft.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Next item 6, 2025 UPWP amendment. Kim.
Thank you very much, Chair Schmitz. Thank you to Stephen as well for sharing screen. I appreciate that. We're now on page 41 of the packet, Exhibit B, which is Amendment Number 1 to the 2025 Unified Planning Work Program. So the 2025 is the budget that we're functioning out of right now and the work program for its activities. We do have an amendment here to Task 102, which is for the Fringe Area Road Master Plan Study. Originally, we had planned for a very light update to the Fringe Area Road Master Plan, and so that was put into our 2025 work program and budget with a budget amount of $88,500, and it was intended to be a very light update, just kind of a desktop review with some hotspot evaluation. However, when we visited with our jurisdictional representatives earlier this spring, they indicated that they wanted to have a much more comprehensive update of the Fringe Area Road Master Plan. They wanted to take a little deeper dive into things like topographical issues and really examining where we're putting those alignments to make sure that there's something that makes sense. In addition, it just seemed that it was a good fit to kind of take a look at that beltway concept that was originally identified within the 2014 Fringe Area Road Master Plan and see if that still made sense and how relevant that was and how we would include that in this update. So with those items, and also with the fact that the hotspot evaluations were going to be costing a little bit more than what we had originally anticipated, we knew that there would be a scope increase to this study. There would be a cost increase to this study. There would now be public engagement involved since it was a comprehensive update of the Farm P. And so then the study length would be increased as well. That's what this amendment is for. And that is all summed up in the very last paragraph. I do want to point out that although this is amending for a scope increase and a net length increase to the study in 2025, there's no budgetary impacts to our 2025 budget. All of the additional funding that would be required for this study would be incurred in 2026, and so that would be part of our new UPWP that we're developing. This amendment only applies to 2025, and there are no budget impacts to year 2025. We have $47,295 that's dedicated to the Fringe Area Road Master Plan in 2025. That is a fixed amount. It will not increase. Are there any questions on this amendment? I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions? And you've already taken this into account in your preliminary draft for 2026.
We have.
Okay.
If there are no questions, TAC did recommend approval of Amendment 1 to the 2025 UPWP as presented, and staff would be seeking the same from Policy Board.
I'll make the motion to accept Amendment 1 for the 2025 UPWP.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Item 7, Fringe Area Road Master Plan update. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. Give me just one moment. I will share screen from the podium for you. More people online. Let's see. Okay. So this is Exhibit C, or page 43 in your packet. This is an RFP, or request for proposals, for an update to the MPO's Fringe Area Road Master Plan, or Farm P, as we just discussed with the recent amendment that the board approved. So this is the request for proposals for this study. The last Farm P update took place in 2014. The Farm P assists the MPO's jurisdictions in planning the arterial and collector road network necessary to support known and anticipated residential and commercial development on the fringes of your communities. So the update will incorporate all approved amendments that have been made to the plan since its adoption, evaluate 6 hotspots within the Fringe Area Road Network that were identified by jurisdictional staff, so some on the Burley Bismarck side and some on the Mandan Morton side. Examine the functionality of the north-south roads currently labeled as a potential beltway in the current plan, and then provide a comprehensive look at the MPO's overall Fringe Area Road Network. There are challenges to both the natural and built environment in planning future roadways, so addressing these challenges is one of the primary goals for this update. And the final updated document will continue as a living plan to assist the jurisdictions in future development and roadway expansions by showing potential new road connections within the existing road network. I will just note a couple of areas on the document that are significant. On on beginning at page 50, item 7, we talk about the objective of the plan and then go into the scope of work, which is item 9 on page 51. And that details the work we'll be expecting of the selected consultant for this project. And then also I want to call out item 11 on page 53. And this is the public involvement plan. This will involve at least 2 meetings with the public on both sides of the river. So we are, setting up for some significant public involvement as part of the update. The update again has a not to exceed budget of $181,000, which, as already noted, $47,000 and change is budgeted for 2025, and the rest has been planned for 2026. Discussions with our jurisdictions led to the decision to pursue this more significant update, and we hope to start work on the project around October of this year, with the update scheduled to conclude by the end of 2026. Are there any questions from the board at this time?
Commissioner Schwab.
What is the definition of a fringe area?
So this would be typically areas outside of city limits or on the edges of the city limits.
In the entire county?
It involves anything within the MPO area. So I believe the current plan covers.
Does that include the ETA?
Yes.
Because we are having a lot of problems with that, and I don't see anything here that's going to settle that. We are going to be having a meeting on that.
Yeah, but this is the road network. This is
To give you an example, you weren't mayor at this time, so I'm not pointing a finger at you. I got a call from a guy that wanted to build a house south of Lincoln. The city went out there and would not give him a driveway unless he was way down this low spot. He would have had a slope about like this to get up to his garage. Well, he hired me, so I wasn't on the commission at the time. I went up, talked to the highway department. They said, no, they are the ones that designate when you can put a driveway, where you can put a driveway. And this was close to an intersection, 200 feet down, and the guy had a straight shot in, no problem. But the city insisted that's going to go down this low spot. In other words, the guy couldn't build. Till them problems are resolved, I can't support this.
But this is the road network. This isn't.
This is
not
fringe.
But it's road network.
Yeah,
it is
well,
not. It's not
It's
building code, ordinance,
but I
or
think it
zoning.
needs to be addressed. You
Well, I
can't
will
have
note
these-
that challenges with the goal of the plan, again, is to look at future roadway development. And so we are going to try to look at challenges associated with existing property lines, subdivisions, things like that, to try to make sure that we're putting future roadways in a responsible way. But yeah, it's targeted at roads specifically. Like, where are we going to build roads in the future to support future development? That's the target of the plan.
When you build roads, you take into consideration where subdivisions are going to be, right?
Correct. Yep. So that's part of what we're looking
To
at.
Bismarck, I think we've got about $250,000 to fix it, and it still ain't fixed. This was city zoning before your time, and anybody that drove by there knew that's a swamp. And I'm going to tell you, the person on the high spot wins because his sewerage goes to the next house and theirs to the next house, and I don't see any of that addressed here. And you guys want to put roads in there and say, well, that's good enough, put roads in. I can't support it until we get this stuff settled. Because those poor people out there, some I believe turned their keys in and just that's it, we've had enough. And it's a new subdivision on 80th Street, just north of Highway 10. And the county tried to fix it. Well, you can't fix poor engineering. And in this case, it was the city that okayed all this stuff, and the city has an engineering staff that is, when I was on the city commission, they have an engineering staff to handle city work, but they are completely lost out in the county, completely lost. And I don't see nothing like that addressed in this, but we're going to plan to do this and that doesn't work with me. I'll second a motion, but I won't support it.
That's fine. You have every right. That's your
Yeah.
But
But I
right.
mean, it was
my
passed.
only point is this is not developed. This is road network, which is,
But
and it's not even roads that are necessarily. It could be new roads. It could be how we addressed existing roads to fix some problems that may exist. So that's the significant difference here. We're going to have our meeting in around ETA and whatever. It's on the.
is that going to be fun?
But that's
Another
a whole
thing,
different topic.
You know, when you talk about a road network, that includes all the roads, not just farm to market roads, not just highway, not just the interstate. Everything that connects to a road is in that network.
I'm not going to disagree with that.
So
So we have a first and a second. We can have discussion if we want some discussion.
I'll make that motion.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
It's
jump.
okay.
I got lost.
Yeah, we would be looking for a motion to approve the RFP. Is
I make that
basically
motion.
Okay.
second,
Okay. Do we have further discussion?
Yes. Kim, could you delineate the difference here?
Thank you, Mayor Freilich and Commissioner Schwab, Chair Schmitz. There was one point that I did want to make regarding the Fringe Area Road Master Plan, and that is, of course, these are proposed alignments, but they don't become reality until the development actually takes place, at which time there is an amendment process that is laid out within the Fringe Area Road Master Plan document itself, so that amendments to the proposed alignments can be made. And while still making those outlying connections, we want to make sure that we're building out our outlying connections while being able to connect within our interior roadway network as well. So this is just to provide a blueprint or kind of a map to help guide us. But we want to make sure that the alignments that are being proposed within the Farm P are realistic, that they're reasonable, that we are taking into account land uses, small parcel ownership, large parcel agricultural ownership, things of that nature, everything that might impact a future roadway in that area needs to be considered. That's why this will be a very comprehensive Farm P update. And in addition, I wanted to call out the fact that the amendment process will be detailed to a great extent within this document, and how we can all follow that process to create a living document that is usable and feasible for future development. And hopefully not all of your concerns, Commissioner Schwab, they will not all be met, but hopefully some of them will be met through the document.
you need to have a definition of, and it's not clear, a road network. And my idea of a road network is if there's going to be a road opened up or widened and there's a fight over where they can put a driveway, we're not accomplishing the right thing. I did second that, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
No.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Item 8, Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan and Targets. Paulette.
Thank you, Chair Schmitz. Got share screen on there. Exhibit D, page 61 in the packet. Thank you. Is a resolution of support for Bismarck Transit's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or PTASP. Can you hear me? It sounded like I went out. Okay, a little closer. I'll start over. In the packet is the resolution of support for Bismarck Transit's Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or PTASP, and its associated safety targets. The Federal Transit Administration, or FTA, requires public transportation operators to develop a PTASP and accompanying safety targets to ensure its operators and public remain safe during transit operations. The Transit Board adopts or updates these targets and the PTASP on an annual basis. The targets may be set by a state Department of Transportation and adopted by local transit providers, or the transit provider may set their own targets separately. And for 2025-2026, Bismarck Transit set its own safety targets and adopted them in May. FTA asks that the MPO support Bismarck Transit targets and PTASP, which is why the MPO today is requesting the board adopt the resolution of support. And yesterday, TAC did approve this item as well. Are there any questions?
Any questions, policy board members? Hearing none, what's the wishes?
Seek the motion to recommend approval of the adoption of the resolution of support of Bismarck Transit's PTASP and their targets.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
Yes.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Item 9, Bismarck-Mandan MPO self-certification. Stephen.
Thank you very much, Chair. So this is Exhibit E in your packet, or page 63. Just a real quick item for you. Bismarck-Mandan MPO self-certification is required by United States Code. MPOs must certify that their planning documents and processes are being carried out in accordance with federal law. TAC and Policy Board approved our most recent self-certification in May this year, but we since received guidance from the Federal Highway Administration and NDDOT requiring the complete removal of references to equal employment statutes in the document, which were recently rescinded by executive order. So the MPO has updated our self-certification accordingly and requests that the board approve the updated self-certification for inclusion in future planning documents. TAC approved the item as presented yesterday, and I can take any questions.
Are there any questions? Hearing none, what are the wishes of the policy board? Or request, I guess. It's a request for an approval, right?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call roll.
Mayor Freilich,
Yes.
Commissioner Schwab,
No.
and Chair Schmitz.
Yes. Item 10, a 2025 Safety Policy Study Progress Report. Is Luke still with us?
Yes, Chair Schmitz, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll provide a quick update on progress being made on the safety policy study. June was a pretty busy month for our team internally. We had a steering committee with your local technical staff on June 26th and presented a plethora of information, critical information, including focus group meeting summaries. We met with law enforcement or emergency services, and then bike ped group, as well as youth aged or younger driver group of folks, and presented some of the key themes from those meetings. We also presented the key themes that we heard about at the Bismarck Earth Day Festival and Mandan Touch a Truck event, both of which were very successful. We had over 100 comments placed on a map of some specific areas of concern. At that meeting as well, we presented the preliminary results of our ongoing safety analysis, including the crash trend summary, which we did discuss briefly last time, and then the high injury network, which we also discussed last time. I'm really quickly going to share my screen and show you what your local technical staff are helping us with. So bear with me while I share this screen. Hopefully you can see things all right. You should see a bunch of dots on the BizMan MPO boundary. Chair Schmitz, can you confirm that you're
Yeah,
seeing
we
this?
can see it.
Okay, great. So there's a web app. This is a collaboration tool that we're using with the steering committee to dive in a little bit deeper to the safety analysis components of the plan. I'm going to start with just showing you where we received feedback from folks at the Earth Day Festival and Touch a Truck event. So we have in here, these are specific locations that people identified with areas they believe are concerned. And so there's specific comments that we can click on to see what their concerns are. The second piece of this is that steering committee members are able to add comments here about specific things they are looking at. For example, if I turn on crashes, a member is wanting to dive into this intersection specifically because as we zoom in on East Main and Expressway here, this intersection, you see orange is incapacitating injury crash. Red would be a fatal crash in the last 5 years. Additionally, and this is pretty technical, but I do want to share this with you. We have a high injury network by mode of transportation. So I'm actually going to click on. We'll look at motorcycle crashes 2020 to 2024. So these are showing in red fatal motorcycle crashes, orange incapacitating injury crashes, and the blue are minor or non-incapacitating injury crashes. We're overlaying that with the high injury network, which it starts to identify corridors that have a high concentration of severe crashes. So if we zoom into Memorial Highway here on the Mandan side, you'll see several motorcycle severe crashes in this area. But the map also allows all of our technical folks to collaborate, add comments, and start to dive in here a little bit more to see, oh, hey, we have a fatal crash at this intersection. Well, what's going on there that might need to be addressed? So things of that nature. As far as other major outcomes of that meeting, there was a lot of interest to dive into a few areas, including we see an uptick of severe crashes in the summer months. And at first glance, it does look like that's proportionate to how much people are driving. Our traffic in North Dakota in general sort of peaks in the summer months, and so we are double checking and normalizing some of the data that we're seeing as far as seasonality. And then there was other things like off-highway vehicles, which we'll be diving into. We did meet with the state OHV contact and got some really good background specific to Bismarck, Mandan, or Burleigh and Morton County, and OHV regulations and citations. And then we will be also diving into motorcycle crashes, as I think I mentioned last time. There's just we want to know what's going on because there's a very high proportion of motorcycle crashes in this region result in severe, that would be a fatal or incapacitating injury for the rider. So there's some interesting outcomes. We're still rolling up our sleeves and diving in, but rest assured that your technical staff are all diving in with us and helping us out here with a very robust analysis of safety across the Bisman region. With that, I think, look forward to talking more about this plan at your future policy board meetings, and I'll field any questions that you might have.
Anyone have questions? Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Item 11, Title VI update. Stephen.
Thank you, Chair. I will share screen briefly. Okay, so this is Exhibit G, or page 73, and so I'll just give you a brief overview. Exhibit F contains the MPO's updated Title VI plan. As a recipient of federal funding, we are required to have a Title VI and non-discrimination ADA plan in place to ensure we take all necessary steps to prevent unlawful discrimination. We do a self-audit of the Title VI plan each year and make appropriate updates. This year, only minor routine changes were made to the document. Updates to dates, complaint forms, goals, demographics, things of that nature. Of note, we did update the demographics supporting our limited English proficiency plan, and then the Title VI maps were also updated. And those show kind of current year's transportation improvement program projects and then some census-related demographic populations. All the changes, because they were minor in nature, no action is required by the board on this item. This is just presented for informational purposes. And the policy board chair will have a couple of Title VI forms to sign, which are signed every year. Are there any questions?
Questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you.
And I believe that, am I next as well? Okay, yeah, sorry. I'm staying up here.
Yep. Item 13, 2025 Highway Safety Improvement Program and Transportation Alternatives Funding. Go ahead, Stephen.
I believe, okay, so I'm still on item 12, the monitoring report update, and then I'll skip to 13, yes.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. So yeah, just a really brief update on the monitoring report. We have finished reviewing the information that we collected at the workshop we held with jurisdictional staff in May, and now we have begun to work on the outline for the new monitoring report document. So the next several months will focus on collecting the data needed to support that document and on drafting the document itself. We are on track to complete the project by year end. So yeah, just a really brief update. We'll have more substantial items to share as we get closer to having a draft in place. Any questions?
Now we can move
Alright.
to item 13.
Yes, item 13. So, in Exhibit I in your packet, so I have basically summaries for 3 different grant programs that we solicited for at the end of last year. So beginning with the FY29 Highway Safety Improvement Program. So we solicited for that last year. We received 1 application from the city of Bismarck for a roundabout at Yagan Road and Lincoln Road. And so we received word from DOT and DDOT that the project has been approved for funding. So that is something that we should be including in our next tip. And yeah, that will be scheduled for FY29. We also solicited for FY27 transportation alternatives in the fall of last year, and we received 5 applications. So TAC and Policy Board elected to send these to DOT for consideration in a prioritized manner. So our top priority project was the Highway 1806 pedestrian trail project in Mandan. Second was the Sunrise Trail Connection project in Bismarck. Third priority was the 3rd Street Southeast sidewalk installation in Mandan. Fourth priority was the Memorial Highway pedestrian ramp realignment in Mandan. And the 5th priority was the State Street multi-use trail rehab project in Bismarck. So we got notice from DOT on these that the 2nd and 3rd priority projects for us, the Sunrise Trail Connection in Bismarck, the 3rd Street Southeast sidewalk installation in Mandan, that they approved those projects for funding. And then finally, we received word on the FY28 Urban Grants Program. We had 2 applications submitted for that, one for the Bismarck reconstruction project on East Main Avenue and one for a Mandan reconstruction phase 2 downtown. And neither project was approved with this round of funding. Those urban grant funds went to other communities with this solicitation. So yeah, those are the updates we received from DOT, and we wanted to pass those on to the boards for our last year's solicitation. Are there any questions?
Any questions? Go ahead. No.
Thank you.
And item 14, the 2025-2028 TIP administration modifications.
Yes, and then just real quick, we processed 2 administrative modifications to the 25 through 28 TIP, and that is Exhibit J at the end of your packets. These modifications move 2 projects, one a Memorial Bridge project and one a downtown Mandan reconstruction project, from FY25 to FY26 per DOT feedback. And the details of the projects are listed on the modification forms, but these are just informational minor changes that were made. Any questions? So let me see. Let me open that up real quick so I can see what. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. Structure paint. That was a typo on my on my form. But yeah, the project is a bridge. The Memorial Bridge project is for deck overlay, structure paint, joint repair, and other miscellaneous improvements on the bridge. Did you have any other questions?
All right. Is there any other business for the policy board? Kim?
Thank you, Chair Schmitz. I do have a couple of items. The first item is that Senate Bill 2180 from the 2025 legislative session was passed, and that resulted in some changes to our North Dakota Century Code regarding public comment opportunities at public meetings. SB 2180 requires political subdivisions such as cities, counties, townships, school districts, et cetera, to provide a public comment opportunity during their regular meetings. Now, North Dakota Century Code has been updated to include some certain items of requirements or requirements that can be imposed by political subdivisions. Right now, the impacts to our TAC and policy board are this, that we must, at each of our meetings, offer a public comment period of what length is basically up to us. We can set a time limit overall as say of 30 minutes for public comment. We can assign a time limit per individual of, for instance, 5 minutes per individual, or we can choose to set no limits at all as long as we do offer that public comment period. This is something that we can choose to do very formally through a bylaw amendment, or we can just make sure that we're opening each of our meetings with a public comment period. Those who wish to provide comments do need to sign in, providing their name. Also, they can comment on anything at the current meeting that is not a public hearing item, or at the very previous meeting, anything on that particular agenda. So there's kind of a 2-meeting limit as to how far back they can go, just one or the current. I just wanted to bring this in front of the board because this does have an August 1 implementation date. So that means with our August meeting, we'll have to include the public comment period. And of course, I would leave it to the board's discretion if you want to address this item through any changes to the bylaws or not.
So I know the city of Bismarck, just last week, we adopted a policy to address this, which covers all those specific things you just identified. We are, I don't know what City of Mandan's doing yet. I know Burleigh County, you just adopted your public comment policy, did you not? Or at least have had discussions on it. So I mean, I think we should have something formal.
Okay.
And if you want to look at what the city of Bismarck has, because it gives the chair discretion to expand the public comment period and the time for the person speaking. So obviously, if we have a lot of comment, we can go beyond 30 minutes if it's a really worthwhile comment, or I don't want to leave personally anyone out or cut someone off if they're sharing vital information. This may not be a meeting that gets a lot of that, but I think we should have something documented. Commissioner?
I was watching Minot, and they developed a policy. If there's a subject comes up, it's 30 minutes, 5 minutes per speaker.
Yep.
And that's it. What bothers me about putting a policy out there, like we've had some pretty rough meetings over there lately, and you can get people that come in there and they're going to comment on everything, and they can keep you going till 3 a.m.
Well,
for no reason. And
that's why we put some guidelines in ours of 30 minutes, but the chair has discretion to expand it, and 5 minutes, but the chair has discretion to expand the time per person, but also to limit, it's to the agenda.
What's your limit total?
That we just said 30 minutes, but the chair can expand, and we limit it to the non-public hearing items on the consent agenda or regular agenda, and one meeting prior. We chose regular meeting prior, but it had to be on. The topics need to be those that were on the agenda.
Are you having the same problem that we've been encountering, that you speak once and let somebody else speak, and that's it, and then all of a sudden they try to roll over and just keep things going?
We have controlled that. We haven't
done a good job of that.
You need to let the next person, because otherwise you're not being fair to the public. And we've been pretty successful, but we've been doing this for a long time already. So we're really not changing our policy at the city other than back one meeting. I don't know.
That's what we did.
Okay.
We don't want Festivus. We don't want an airing of grievances.
I can't hear you.
We don't want Festivus. We don't want an airing of grievances from 20 years back,
I realize
so it's
that.
limited to what the state put forth in the bill.
I think public input is important, and it's really interesting, but when it gets down to the point everybody's repeating everything and then starting to attack the commissioners, that isn't public input anymore.
But that's when the commission needs
agree.
to, or the chair or whoever needs to try to hold the ground. And it's hard. Trust me, I've been there. It's hard.
Yeah, and then you're the bad guy for doing that.
Yeah, it's hard. But I don't think I don't know that we need to change the bylaws, Kim. I just think a policy of something.
I don't see any problems with it. Have you had problems with it?
No, we
Why
have
would
not.
we change something that isn't broken?
We just got to make sure we follow the statute.
Well, of course.
It's the only thing.
Our minimum requirements to follow the statute would be to provide the public comment opportunity at each meeting.
We'll just do it right away in the beginning of the meeting.
Sounds good. Okay.
Okay.
I did have one more item as well. The Big Sky Passenger Rail Authority is going to be holding their annual conference on September 8th, 9th, and 10th in Livingston, Montana. I just wanted to get the word out. All of the responsible parties for each of our government partner program jurisdictions have this information, and they should be sharing that with elected officials within your organization, administration, and things of that nature. But I kind of wanted to get it out here because this is kind of an early invite that we've received. As government partner program members, we are definitely invited and encouraged to attend the conference. There is going to be a workshop session on the 8th, on the first day, for the government partner program. And so I would encourage anybody who is interested in attending that to watch your emails. Your like I said, your responsible party should be disseminating that information to you. And if you don't see it soon, please reach out to me, and I will extend that offer to you as well with all of the links.
Is there anything else? We stand adjourned.